you taking us, Emmett?
The Brown household is going on a little vacation.
In 1990, I guess it was, Universal decided they wanted to get into the family entertainment business. So they set up a new department under a guy named Jeff Siegel, and they contacted me about whether there could be a Back to the Future animated series. And my response was yes, but. And the but was I wanted there to be some educational content in it. I wanted, there was a TV show in the United States called Mr. Wizard when I was a little boy. And Mr. Wizard was a scientist, and he did experiments on TV, and you could learn how to do these experiments. And I said, we need to have a Mr. Wizard segment in Back to the Future, and we should have a little historical content. And I said, if you guys are good with that, I had a daughter who was 2 years old at the time. I was worried about what she was going to watch on television.
These TV shows are so unrealistic.
Jeff Siegel said, yeah, that works for us. He said, I want to introduce you to the two guys that I think are the ones to run this show. And it was
lucky.
you.
It was a lucky break, really. It was fun. I was so excited to be able to do that. And I think 3 had just come out, maybe.
Correct.
Yeah. And so that was very fresh. And it's a great project. You know, you get to work with Amblin and Back to the Future. And it was a little daunting, you know, because a movie's one thing, and it's designed to be, you know, have a start and an end. And now a series is completely different thinking. How can you sustain something every week with a certain group of characters, and what's the arc of that? So that was the task. And I remember, I don't know if you remember this or not, but I was actually, I seen a photo of a Civil War drum that was signed by a relative of my wife. He was a drummer boy. And so I started thinking about the Civil War, and then we started talking about, you know, the first episode and the brothers that get separated and they're, you know, on each side of the war. And so we kind of put that together. And, but also, you know, that the Jules and Vern would be featured, and Marty was sort of ancillary, but he was there, because everybody just assumed it would be about Marty.
Baby. Oh, baby.
And it didn't really resonate to be something that would have a full life, you know. We thought focusing a little bit more on the kids and their relationship with their dad, especially if we were tying in the science stuff, was more interesting.
Absolutely. It was a question of saying, okay, kids would be interested in other kids.
Right.
And I remember Judy Price telling us that boys will watch boys,
right,
but they won't watch girls.
Right.
But girls will watch boys,
yes,
and they'll watch girls.
You're right.
So that's why she loved the idea that it would focus on
yes.
Jules and Vern.
Jules Verne! Vern!
He was the father of science fiction.
And then we had these characters that basically were not developed in the movies at all, so we had to figure out who they would be.
Identity acknowledged. Enter, Einstein.
I think we all brainstormed about that.
We did. I remember John Loy and I having like maybe 5 or 6, you know, things that we really worked out to great length. It could go like this, it could go like this, it could go like this. And then we settled on, and we kept eliminating, well, this is why this isn't as strong as this. We got it down to 1. And we wrote a script, and I remember we gave it to you, and we didn't really know you at all, really, other than just like our first meeting. And and I think this was sort of a challenge on your part, because you went like this, you threw it right in a trash can. You said, you guys can do a lot better than this. And then ultimately, we spent another month, I think, exploring those other options, and we came back to that first one, and you said, yeah, no, you're right. I just wanted to make sure you guys did your homework and got it. You know, we found out exactly the way we wanted to do this, because we went back to presenting that same thing to you, a little tweaked, and you said, yeah, this is right.
Oh, well, yeah, okay.
It was a great process, I thought. It really made us work very hard to try to get exactly what would work for a series.
we eventually decided that Jules would be like Doc Brown, very, very intellectual, very scientific-minded, always wanting to use big words.
Congress ratifies Bill of Rights.
Simply brilliant, Jules.
I'm very impressed.
So what?
And Vern was going to be basically Dennis the Menace,
The goofball.
just
Yeah.
the
Having
wild,
fun, yes.
the wild card in the deck,
Yeah.
and always he would be the motor for a lot of shows.
Right, exactly.
This is a task for the mighty Brave Lord.
No way, Vernster. Before I battle the demon monsters, I must wear my magic belt.
It's a lot of fun to be able to have those two characters, play off of each other. Well, to be asked to work on an Amblin show, it was, very honored. It was great, and especially a project like Back to the Future, a property so, A+ material. And I remember the first meeting with Mr. Spielberg, which I called then, I certainly didn't know him. There was a big, long table, and there was probably 15 people at this meeting. And you walk in, and there's like bagels and strawberries, and there's everything you could possibly want. So I'm walking, this is really nice. And I look over, and everybody has sat down except for this one chair right next to the head of the table. And so I guess I'm sitting in that chair, and I know who's going to come in and sit in that chair. And so he comes in and he sits down and says, "What do you got?" And we start telling, okay, here's how we want to do it. We want to have animation and live action. And I remember him saying, that just never looks good, unless you've got a really expensive cereal commercial. And I said, well, I think we're, because he wasn't sure how we were going to, he didn't know who I am, especially. So, we'll make that work. And I said, we're going to have Christopher Lloyd. And I remember saying, you're going to get Christopher Lloyd. So we're going to get Christopher Lloyd. He says, well, good luck with that. That's a good challenge, because he didn't think we could do it. And we were able to book Christopher Lloyd. But I tell you, they say it starts at the top. He kind of laid down the law. It better be good. Make it as good as the movies if you can. And if you can get Christopher Lloyd, great. So we booked Christopher Lloyd.
Doc Brown here. As you can see, I'm visible once again.
The first day of shooting, I had just purchased a house in Montana, and I knew Christopher lived in Montana. And so I thought that would be my intro to, to say hi. I said, Mr. Lloyd, it's a pleasure to meet you. I'm really excited that you're working on this project. And in fact, I just bought a house in Montana. And, he kind of had a little smile on his face, and then he kind of became a little more serious. And then he just kind of exploded, my ex-wife got that house in Montana. So we didn't talk about Montana after that.
Get out of my house, you big-eyebrowed slave to science!
I just adored Mary Steenburgen. Mary Steenburgen is doing this show? Wow, great. And I remember meeting her and a similar experience, saying, Mary, thank you for doing the show. I saw you in Time After Time, and I just fell in love with you. And he said, yes, I made the same mistake with the leading man of that movie. And I knew not to bring up that experience as well. But they couldn't have been more professional. They came prepared, delivered the goods. Like I said, it was great to have such talented people in the recording sessions.
It was. One of the things that we did with Back to the Future that was rarely, if ever, done with animated series is we had the entire cast together to do their voice acting. Usually in animation, in the cheap Saturday morning world, you get one actor in, he reads all of his lines, you get the next actor in. But we decided that the performances would be a lot better if everybody could play off of each other. So that worked out just wonderfully. And I think that there's a lot of energy in the shows because all the actors were together in the recording sessions.
Yeah, it rarely happens.
Exactly.
That was, and you're talking about, Mary Steenburgen. You're not talking about some, just voice actors that are always available. There's people that are, really gifted and brought a lot to it. It was great sessions. It was so much fun to do those. Yeah.
It's important to finish what you start.
Did we do those one at a time, or did we do more than one at a time?
Yes, it was always one at a time because they took longer than usual. I mean, I've worked on half-hour shows that they'll do in 40 minutes, and you know, everybody's just going in and out. This was a couple of hours per show, so it was good. You know.
We had a fantastic cast. We were
great cast.
so blessed.
Oh my gosh!
We were able to get Tom Wilson, who played Biff in the movie. He wanted to come on board. He had kids too. He was concerned the same way that I was.
Hey, I'm not buying any defected merchandise. I want my money back.
Mary Steenburgen, she had kids, and then somehow we were able to get Dan Castellaneta, who played Homer Simpson. I don't even remember how that worked out, but
I don't know.
God, what a talent! What a talent! So he did Doc Brown flawlessly.
There are too many things left to invent. The temptation to think is too strong. There must be somewhere in the universe where no thinking is required.
And then we found this guy, David Kaufman, to do Marty McFly.
Right, he was great
and
too.
I guess we just had a casting session and had a lot of voice actors come in, and he just nailed it. He was so good. He was so spot on, in fact, that later on he voiced Michael J. Fox, Stuart Little in the animated series of Stuart Little. Michael J. Fox had voiced the real character in the movie version, and then David came on board the TV show to continue that. So that was a perfect marriage.
Well, I guess that covers everybody.
We had stuff where Doc Christopher's in the lab talking, and then we cut to animation, especially when we were doing the video experiment stuff, and then back to Doc in the lab. And there were lines of dialogue that Dan Castellaneta does half the line, and Christopher Lloyd does the other half.
Great Scott, the flux capacitor! Exciting, isn't it?
It's brilliant. It's amazing how good Dan was to be able to seamlessly pull off the perfect Christopher Lloyd imitation, and it was a joy to work with him too. He was just so funny, and those were great sessions. That's, like I said, that's one of my favorite parts about being an animation writer.
Whew, that was a close one. If it weren't for Lightning, my pal Marty would have been trapped in 1955 forever.
Taking a movie and turning it into a TV show, that's a trick. We had done it with Bill and Ted, It's Excellent Adventures, and interestingly, a time travel film. And so I had some experience, you know. Like I said, a movie is an arc, you know, A to Z, but you need a series that has it's a whole different animal. So yeah, that was the process of trying to figure out what will be sustaining with this show, and that was what we were talking about with Bob about how the kids helped for sure. The thing that I liked about using the kids is that they weren't familiar to anybody. It was something completely different, you know.
Right, we were able to create characterizations for these kids, and nobody could say, "Well, that's not how Jules and Verne would be."
Right.
Then, of course, we decided that we had to have Biff through time, the ancestors of Biff.
Is there a Tannen in every century?
And that was another rule of the series, which is we never wanted to have our characters interact with real historical characters. So everything that you see in the shows, they are all fictional historical characters, usually somehow related to the McFlys, the Browns, or the Tannens. Although, wait, didn't we have Ben Franklin in that one episode?
Yes, I was going to say, because Jules is teasing Verne that he's adopted, and he finds a photograph of Ben Franklin and thinks it's his father. So he goes back to find out if it's true or not.
Go fly a kite.
Daddy!
Unhand me, lad. I must complete my experiment before the storm abates. Greetings again!
The lab that we used in the series was sort of modeled on the one that was on the ride at Universal. And the man who directed those live-action bits for the first season was Peyton Reed, who has gone on to be a very accomplished film director. Yeah. Ant-Man is the summer 2015 comic book movie by Peyton Reed. So Peyton was great. Peyton had been with the behind-the-scenes crew covering the production of the sequels. So I knew Peyton very well, and he was involved with the ride, doing the live action stuff for the ride. So he was a perfect guy to come in and direct Chris for those.
I think he sort of assisted with the back to the scenes shoot and everything, but this was like his first director gig, really, wasn't it?
I think it was.
Yeah.
I think that the directing Christopher Lloyd in these live action wraparounds was the first thing Peyton himself directed.
And since he was directing them, we had asked him to write, I think, 3 or 4 of the 13 to do, these lab sequences. So, and he was a writer too, but he was kind of just breaking into that. He didn't have a lot of experience, but he really wanted to write them. So I said, okay, Peyton, I'm going to give you a couple, 3 anyway, and get you started. And here's what they are. And we gave him a deadline, and I remember the deadline came and he didn't deliver.
Oh, gee, and my watch only goes up to 12. We are late.
I called him, hey, Peyton, he said, okay, I'll have him tomorrow. And then they didn't come, and he finally delivered it. And I said, Peyton, I really needed these, because we're on a schedule. And I remember him saying, there was a Planet of the Apes marathon on TV. I couldn't miss it. I thought, wow. I've never used that excuse, but he was studying his filmmaking.
He was.
But only the real film historians among you recall Daredevil Brown. Talk about a Hollywood success story.
All the animation was done in the Far East, and then we would get. Did we get pencil tests back, or did they just shoot these things?
Yeah, they would just shoot them.
We got pencil tests back at the very beginning, just to sort of get a sense of how the characters were going to move, and they did put a lot of time into creating the opening title sequence, because that was the thing that was going to run every episode, and we did a bunch of different sets of storyboards for those until we got something that we really liked, and it was great. We used the song "Back in Time" from the end of the first movie as the theme song for the show, at great expense to Universal, I'm sure, because Huey Lewis was a big act, but it was absolutely worth it.
Yeah, it turned out well, and we were really lucky too that John Lloyd's early life was as an editor, film editor. And so we would get the film back, and generally, if you're 25 feet over or 75 feet over, typically what's done is somebody will say, "Well, here's 25 feet we don't need," and just take it out. And John was a master at taking every scene and trimming, 3 inches here, 6 inches there, 2 feet there. We'd go through the whole thing, and he'd clean up everything with the editor there. Say, here's what we want to do. Here's what we want to do. And he was heavily involved in that process, and I'd learned a lot about editing from him. That made flow so well and get the timing to go so well.
The animation was pretty good given the standards of Saturday morning, but there were one or two instances, I think it was, where the animation company bit off more than they could chew with other deals, and so they farmed 1 or 2 of these episodes out to a company in Thailand.
I don't remember those.
You remember those?
No, I don't.
Well, I don't. I'd have to look and see which episodes they were. But we get these shows back, and we didn't know that they'd subcontracted them out. And the animation was terrible. The characters didn't look right. They didn't move right. And I remember just screaming my head off.
Slight problemo.
First at Colossal, and then they, of course, in turn screamed at James Wong. Does that name sound familiar?
Yeah.
I think that's James Wong. Yeah, it was his studio. And so we made him redo it. And they didn't want to redo it, of course, because it was expensive, but we made him do it because...
I do remember. It looked horrible. The kids didn't even look like them.
Jumping gigawatts!
Then there was the matter of the baseball show. I don't know if you remember this one.
Blue.
They made blue baseballs.
Jules touched it last!
We went berserk. We said, come on, they play baseball in China. You guys should know that baseballs are white and not blue. And
we thought it'd be more interesting.
We got all these excuses about why they were blue. And I remember John Hayes gave me a gift of a blue baseball. I have that somewhere. I don't know where. But...
Oh, yeah. I totally forgot. That was crazy. Yeah.
Well, see you in the future.